All right, and welcome to Sports on Tap. I'm your host, Rob Troutman. We have Sean Duffy, Ed Dick, and Josh Jeffy here for Week 5 of our high school football game recaps. We cover the Southwestern Conference. We cover the GLC, the Greater Cleveland Conference, and the Suburban League. And we'll probably maybe get into playoffs. I know that that's still kind of going on with the seedings and stuff like that. But guys, welcome back here on a nice Monday night.
Hey,
I got the equivalent of 1,000 car washes on the ride home today from work. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I know it rained buckets out there. That's for sure. But hopefully the sun will come back out because I enjoyed actually the weekend, and last week was awesome. And now we get a little rain, so hopefully it'll clear up.
this is the part of the podcast where Rob breaks into song. The sun will come out tomorrow.
No, you don't. Nobody wants to hear that.
I'm not gonna.
That's for sure.
No, we do not. I can tell you that.
So did everybody enjoy their conference games this week? I know me and Josh got out to some games. I got to see Valley Forge versus Buckeye, which was a great game. And I thought, the spirit and the energy at Buckeye was unbelievable, considering the student section was outside of the fence, and they had their chants going on, social distancing, at least tried to social distance. But there was a good crowd there, and a lot of really good football being played on Friday night. How about you, Josh? I know you had Hudson and Highland.
Yeah, it was an awesome night for football. Real good temperature, real good atmosphere at Highland. They always do a real good job there. And they ran into a buzzsaw of an offensive team known as the Hudson Explorers. And we'll talk about that. Sean will go over that a little bit much, and I'll add what I saw live from the sidelines from that game. But it was a sight to behold for sure.
All right. Well, we'll start getting into the conferences now. Josh, why don't you start us off with the GCC? And how was it in your conference?
Yeah, we had a couple really good games, and one not so good game, and then we actually had a really interesting showdown. One that you rarely see nowadays in high school football, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. The first game I want to talk about, though, was a real good game between Euclid and Medina, and this one came down to the last second. But to start the game, Medina got off to a really quick start. They actually ran back the opening kickoff 92 yards. Juwan Jackson for Medina was able to score that touchdown on the opening kick. Then on the next offensive Medina possession, they actually fumbled the ball, and Euclid's Rasheed Evans recovered the fumble and ran it back 71 yards for the touchdown. So early on, we had two big plays in this one, and that's kind of how the game would go. Later on in the second quarter, Euclid was down 14-10, and then Andre Rawlings hit Armand Scott for what would be their first of two 50-plus yard touchdown pass and catches. And this one, for their first one, was for 51 yards. That made it 17-14, and that was the score at half. Again, as I mentioned, the two would hook up at least one more time over 50 yards. Later on in the third quarter, they would hit one from 81 yards, and then the two of them would hook up again late in what would eventually be the game-winning touchdown in the fourth quarter with 2:46 left. They would hit another touchdown from 18 yards out. So all in all, these two, Andre Rawlings and Armand Scott, really had great games. 3 touchdown passes for Rawlings. He finished with an efficient 14 of 21. And Armand Scott, though, 7 receptions, 204 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Now, Drew Allar for Medina, he's put up numbers all year. Medina offense has put up numbers all year. In this game, though, Euclid's defense kind of held them in check. In total, Allar was 12 or 29, 134 yards. He did have 2 touchdown passes and 1 running touchdown. And his 2 touchdown passes were to his favorite target, Luke Hensley, in this one. Now, it all came down to a Ryan Miller 44-yard field goal attempt late in the game. He got the snap down. The kick was up. It was long enough, but, however, it was wide left. And Euclid went on to win this game 31-28. So they improved to 3-2 on the season. Medina drops to 2-3. Let me flip onto my classic notepad here. The second of 3 GCC games, conference games, Menor traveled to Elyria, and Menor came away with a 45-21 victory over Elyria in this one. Now, the score, it seemed it was a lot closer than what it actually was. Menor was actually up 38-0 at the half. And then Elyria actually outscored Menor 21-7 in the second half. Menor was led by running back Brendan Panhorst. He had 152 yards and 3 touchdowns in just the first half alone. Their star quarterback, Ian Kipp, had 95 throwing yards and a touchdown, and that was, again, all in the first half. For Elyria, Dylan Charlo, he played his heart out, 6 out of 15, 87 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and he did have a rushing score in this one. Elyria was out running. They were without, running back Jaheim Atkinson. He was injured for this game. So Lance Glover actually took over for him. He had a really good game, 9 rushing attempts, 89 yards, but it was not enough as Elyria dropped this one 45-21. This is their 22nd straight GCC loss for them. They're looking to get off the schneid here soon. Menor improves to 4-1 on the year. Elyria drops to 1-4. Now, a big game for 3 out of the 4 of us in this group. Big rivalry game. Brunswick did travel to Strongsville in this one, and Brunswick actually came away with a dominating 35-14 victory in this one. Brunswick recovered a fumble snap to open the game. That actually set up Ethan Fritz to quit McKinley from 2 yards out to make it 6-0. Noah Barchek added a field goal to make it 9-0 after the first quarter. Brunswick then added 3 scores from Brandon. 3 scores in the first half. One by Brandon Kinning. He had a 41-yard TD run. Ethan Fritz had a 42-yard TD run, and Gavin Erst hit a 31-yard field goal. So it was actually 28-0 Blue Devils at the half. Strongsville would get 2 touchdown passes from Maddox Beard in this game. He finished 16 of 26 for 2 touchdowns, 154 yards. Brunswick was led by not only great defense in this one, but also a solid running attack. In total for this game, Brandon Kenning had 21 carries, 164 yards, and a touchdown. Ethan Fritz added 72 yards on 15 attempts. He also was 7 of 15 for 100 yards. And Brunswick defense in this one actually came to play. Got a little chippy on Strongsville's end, but Brunswick really disciplined in this one, only had 2 penalties, according to the Medina Gazette. So a big win for them to travel to their rival and get this conference win to actually put their season record at 3-2. And Strongsville drops to 2-3. Ed, I know you like to chime in on this one, so you have that big grin on your face. So go ahead, my friend.
Yeah, I wish I was certainly wish I was there for that one in any capacity. But to your point, I mean, dominating victory. I did listen to the game on WEOL's live stream. They had the Medina County matchup on Stream 3, and that's awesome, by the way. Yeah, they played. I mean, they played about as well as you could play. Coach Benzoni really had the team focused and ready to roll. What was mentioned in the Gazette article, which wasn't talked about in the broadcast, was former Brunswick head coach and Medina head coach and current Brunswick assistant Tom Fasco led the team to the state championship in 1995, the state title game. He suffered a heart attack on Wednesday. He's been in the hospital. So thoughts and prayers certainly go out to him, to his family. So that's also playing on the minds. That was also fresh on the minds of the Blue Devils going into that game. So they wanted to win this one just as much for Coach Fasco as it was for beating Strongsville, which is, again, for 3 out of the 4 of us is the best thing you could possibly do in the regular season. For all of us growing up. So and I'll give props to my to Noah Barchek and Gavin Ernst, the kickers that I've briefly worked with this year. Coach Benzoni trusted them, and they put 3 field goals on the board. We haven't kicked 3 field goals in a game. Sorry, made 3 field goals in a game since no joke, since Rob Cruz did it with in 1999 when you guys were in Jackson.
Wow.
I
Crazy.
don't.
That's your SOT stat of the game right there.
That is, when it comes to kicking stats for Brunswick, no, anything from 1999 on, I can speak directly to all of that. I tried 3 field goals in a game, didn't make them all, but excellent effort all around from the Blue Devils, and they finished conference play, and we'll see where the seedings shake out here for the playoffs.
Yeah, that's it's hard to imagine it was chippy with Brunswick and Strongsville. I mean, that's
yeah, you don't say.
But that was an impressive win. I thought it would be a little bit closer, but regardless, it was a good win for Brunswick. And Coach Benzoni has that team really playing well. They play tough. Yeah, obviously, anybody that faces Menor, I feel like, is going to have their hands full. But for the most part, they're playing well.
Yeah, they are, and they've been playing hard all year, with really the exception of that Menor game, which I was at, last week. Menor just came out and just beat them up. Yeah, but that's a good learning experience. But the rest of the GCC is somewhat wide open. You have Solon coming back in, which we'll talk about their game here in a minute. But they're coming back in. They're off to a real slow start. And that's not a surprise considering what, they've been through starting late. But, you had Brunswick beat Medina, Strongsville was in there too. Strongsville beat Euclid, and then Euclid beat Medina. So, there's 3 or 4 teams right there that are all similar in competition. And they're, teams like Brunswick and even Euclid, even the 4 of them, let's just say the 4 of them, they're on their way to having a good playoff run. 5 teams from the GCC are. And if Solon can get together, because I do believe they opted in for the playoffs, if they can start turning things around, they might be something in the playoffs as well. So it's going to be interesting. But speaking of Solon, we had a rare Division I versus Division V meeting this past Friday night. And Division V Kirtland, the powerhouse known as Kirtland, came in and really put it to Solon. They came away with a 27-7 victory. This is Kirtland's 35th game in a row that they've won. They're coming off 2 straight state championships, and they were led by their quarterback, Liam Powers, in this game. He actually had 2 passing touchdowns and 1 rushing touchdown, and that's really all they needed because Solon could only manage for the game 202 yards of total offense. Now, that doesn't seem like too big of a number, but 47 of that came on the last drive of the game in essentially garbage time. So they had about 150 yards total offense. Their only TD came from a Pat McQuaid to Joel Capasso touchdown, receiving touchdown. Also in this game, their running back Khalil Eichelberger rushed for 82 yards on 21 attempts. So far, Solon is 0-2 on the year with 2 big losses to Kirtland and St. Vincent St. Mary, and they've only been able to muster 14 points in those 2 games. Both their touchdowns came in the first quarter of both of those games. So they do have some work to do, but they're going to kind of get back into the flow here coming this week as we look at the schedule. It's all GCC with the exception of 1 game. Solon will travel to Medina. Strongsville will travel out to Menor. Euclid will face Elyria, and Garfield Heights will travel to Brunswick. And that's the week 6, the final week of the regular season in the Greater Cleveland Conference. Now, my G&G Fitness Coach of the Week nominee, I'm sorry, fellas, I may be a little biased, but I have to go to our former coach, Mark Pinzoni. Anytime you can beat your rival and beat them good, you got to get a nominee for Coach of the Week. And my RT Productions Player of the Week nominee, it's going to go to Euclid wide receiver Armand Scott. 7 receptions, 204 yards, and 3 touchdowns, and a big win over Medina to keep their season rolling. Guys, that's it for the GCC. Until next week, I bid you adieu. The champ is done with his recap.
Well played, sir. Well played.
Mute him.
I know.
Let's talk about. I think it will behoove us as a high school sports show to talk about what Kirtland has done, and it started. And to their credit, it's being well documented, and they just completely deserve everything positive that they get their way. This season, we've talked about this. This season has afforded matchups that we wouldn't normally see. So I applaud both Shaker Heights and Solon for taking these games for playing Kirtland. In most seasons, it wouldn't make sense for them to do that based on the pure percentage of points that are won. But this is the season to do such things, and Kirtland is proving that they are not just a small school. They're not just a small school power. They've been able to go 4 divisions up from where they are to defeat teams that are just enrollment wise bigger than they are. Kirtland, to their credit, it's not like they have 30 kids on their team. They have a very, very good turnout for a Division 5 school on their roster. And if you're a team as successful as they are, the football team kind of recruits itself. So, if you're any bit of the least athletic, I imagine you're going to at least want to go out and see what's going on with Tiger Laverty and that team. And Tiger Laverty and the coaching staff out there has just done a tremendous job over the years, going from divisions, bouncing back and forth between Division 6, Division 5. They've had some really good battles with Cuyahoga Heights over the years, and amongst other teams. So hats off to Kirtland for what they've done. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do in the playoffs. And for Solon, they're only 2 games in. I don't know how much you can attribute to them not having a full schedule up to this point to that victory. But at the end of the day, Kirtland came out there. They didn't have to punt the entire game. I mean, that's a tremendous accomplishment no matter who you play, let alone playing a team like Solon.
You're absolutely right, Ed. I mean, that's the way. I mean, Kirtland is an impressive team, like you said, every year. But that's the fun thing that I like about this year is teams, like you said, you wouldn't normally see play each other. I mean, I was shocked when Solon was going to take on Kirtland, but I thought it was a great matchup and kind of fun to see those kind of different matchups. Same with Westlake, playing teams that they normally wouldn't play in their independent season, and we'll see what happens moving forward. Maybe it'd be something with a trend that these teams can continue to do. But it's fun to go out of your comfort zone a little bit, I feel like, and play some of the bigger schools that you can get some points. I mean, especially a good Kirtland team like that. So, all right, well done, Ed. Now we'll go to the Southwestern Conference, and it was a fun week in the Southwestern Conference as we start in Week 5 as Berea Mid-Park traveled to Avon, and let's put it this way, Avon jumped out to a 28-0 lead at halftime in this game, and it was Avon quarterback Nico Pappas. He had an unbelievable game. He put 5 touchdowns and 251 yards passing in 2 quarters of play in this one. They were also led by 2 running backs. They had Desmond Kelly and Devin Hunter, who combined for 139 yards on 11 carries in this game. With a win over Midview in Week 6, the Eagles, though, they would win the SWC outright 4 out of 5 years after sharing a championship in 2018. And that's right now, so they can continue that trend and win again. And they've won many titles of the Southwestern Conference. As we know, they're always at the top. They win big, 63-12. They improved to 5-0 overall, 5-0 in conference. As Berea Mid-Park, they fall to 1-4 overall, and after their big win against Midview, but they fall there. Now let's move on to Amherst as they take on Olmsted Falls, and this one was a shootout as we thought it would be, and it was a tough competitive game in this one. But Amherst, they jumped out to a 14-0 lead in this game. Ty Weatherspoon and Alden Steele scored, but the Bulldogs, they would take the lead at half. It was 21-20 at half as they came back. And this game went back and forth, but Olmsted Falls, they would break away thanks to 2 touchdowns from Rocco Conti and Michael Kandow. But again, it was running back Andrew Parkowski. He would score 3 times in this game as it was the Olmsted Falls Bulldogs getting the win 56-35 in this one. Amherst drops to 3-2 as Olmsted Falls improves to 4-1. All right, Midview, they traveled to North Ridgeville, and one of these teams would get a win in this game and get their first win. As the Rangers, they had a 3-point lead at halftime, but after the half, again, the Middies scored 14 points in the first 5 minutes of this game, and they outscored North Ridgeville 24-0 in the second half for the win. And again, North Ridgeville in the game, they don't put 4 quarters together as they fall again, but it was 31-10 Midview with a big win as Middies quarterback Ethan Surdock threw for 138 yards and 2 touchdowns in that game. And Midview now 1-4, North Ridgeville falls to 0-5. Avon Lake, they traveled to North Olmsted, and I thought this one would be a close game, but the Shoremen, they dominated right from the kickoff. Scoring on offense was quarterback Michael Corbo, running back Gage Dusler, and the special teams, they scored a few times in this game as they win big 45-0. Avon Lake now 4-1 as North Olmsted falls to 1-3, but give credit to the Shoreman defense. They stepped up to shut out the Eagles in this one, who can really get nothing going all night. And again, Avon Lake improves to 4-1 as they go into a big week, and we'll tell you who they play coming up here at the end. Now, Revere against Westlake, and Westlake playing another team that's out of conference and a little bit different that they might not normally play. And the defense, they had some stops in the red zone, and they kept the offense in the game, but it was the Revere defense that kept the Westlake off the board. They get the win 21-0 in this game. Revere improved to 3-1 as Westlake falls to 2-3, and I believe Revere with the win, I think is 4-1 now on the season. So
yes,
a big win for Revere as they beat the Demons there. Now the SWC G&G Fitness Coach of the Week, I got to give it to former Brunswick coach Luke Beal of Midview. He gets his first win as the Midview coach, and they've had some close games, but they're unable to pull it out. They're able to pull it out this week. Congratulations to Coach Luke Beal of Midview with his first win. And the SWC RT Productions Player of the Week goes to Avon quarterback Nico Pappas. 5 touchdowns, 251 yards passing, and this came in the first 2 quarters of play. Just an impressive win overall for the Avon Eagles as they look to continue and win outright the SWC, and they'll take on Midview to try to get that. The schedule for Week 6, North Ridgeville at 0-5, looking to get their first win as they travel to Berea Mid-Park, who's 1-4. Olmsted Falls 4-1, and this is the big one this week in the SWC to keep a track on. Olmsted Falls 4-1 travels to Avon Lake 4-1. That's going to be a big one for Olmsted Falls as they go on the road. Avon 5-0, looking to clinch the SWC. They travel to Midview at 1-4, and North Olmsted 1-3 as they travel to Amherst at 3-2. So, guys, that's the Southwestern Conference Week 5 game recaps. No real surprises there for the most part, but thought the Amherst Olmsted Falls game, and that was a really good game for most of the game. Near the end, Olmsted Falls pulled away there. High-scoring game, but it's going to be interesting to see how Olmsted Falls will do on the road at Avon Lake. And Avon Lake, after that double overtime loss to Avon, they've been playing some really good football.
Yeah, they have. Coach Kostelnik has them playing very, very at a very high level, and the Avon Lake and Olmsted Falls game in Week 6 is going to be a great game. If I'm looking at the schedule here, based on what you're telling, that's got to be the best game on the schedule for Week 6.
Yeah.
In the SWC, essentially a de facto battle for second place, if you want to call it that, being that Avon is taking out a 1-4 Midview team, and we'll see what Coach Beal could cook up there against the Eagles.
Could he pull the shocker of a lifetime?
Wouldn't put it past him. Wouldn't put it past him. I coached with him for 7 years, and I know we'll have the middies ready to play in that game. But as you said, Rob, not a whole lot of surprises in the SWC this week. Amherst, as you talked about last week, they've settled in at the I would say the upper half of the conference, but just below the Avon Lakes and the Olmsted Fallses, and and the results this year prove that out.
A couple things that stand out to me when I look at that's right. A couple things that stand out to me as you went through your recap is I agree with you, Ed, is Amherst is really, I think Amherst is a sneaky good team that no one's going to want to run into in a playoff scenario because they do all the things well. They don't do just one thing well. They play really good defense. They have a really good running game. They throw the ball when they need to. It's a very solid and well-balanced team. The problem is that we say it every year, the Southwestern Conference just has talent in that top tier. Another thing that stands out to me is I'm intrigued at this North Ridgeville Berea Mid-Park game. The reason I'm intrigued is I believe both these teams opted into the playoffs. You want to make sure you have some sort of momentum going into a playoff, especially like the one we're seeing now where you can build on momentum. And North Ridgeville, like Rob said, has been in games. They've not been really blown out of games. They've been in it, but they are self-inflicted wounds, inconsistent play, not really executing the game plan or allowing outside factors to control it has been the downfall for North Ridgeville for most of these games. And I'm wondering if they can kind of put that together and get a win against the Berea Mid-Park team that I think if you ask anyone has underperformed a little bit this year, has not really, clicked on all cylinders as we've seen before from an offensive standpoint. So I think that's a really intriguing game to me, and it'd be one that may not get a lot of coverage because again, there's some marquee matchups in that conference. But I'm going to keep a special eye on that one because I'm interested to see. There's a pretty good narrative there between a team like North Ridgeville that just kind of needs an opportunity to put it all together, and a team like Berea Mid-Park that we may see rounding in form. Look, when you play Avon, you got to make sure you hit every single spot and hope they make mistakes. And that didn't happen last week. But they're not by any means a team in Berea Mid-Park that you take lightly. They have playmakers on the outside. They have a good running game. They're well coached both on offense and defense. It's just unfortunately some things haven't gone their way. So that's something that I'm very interested to see and follow this week.
Absolutely. I would agree, and we'll see. Like you said, what Ridgeville, and they have been blown out in some games, but they play like 2 quarters of good football, and then the wheels fall off a little bit. So we'll see what they can do there. But let's go to Ed. He's going to cover the Great Lakes Conference there, and Ed, I had a chance to see a really good game this week. It was Valley Forge and Buckeye. What do you have for the Great Lakes Conference?
We'll save that one for last, Rob. That was, looking at the schedule, quite honestly, that was the best game. That was the best game on the schedule this week from an on paper standpoint. So first, 2-1 Elyria Catholic traveled to First Federal Stadium to take on the 1-3 Lakewood Rangers. After a scoreless first quarter, the Panthers hit pay dirt, a 14-yard touchdown run by sophomore quarterback Brady Cook. The Panthers scored twice more, a 9-yard touchdown pass from senior quarterback Steven Navalinsky to wide receiver Jared Franz, and a 43-yard touchdown run by sophomore sensation running back Levi Ellis. The Rangers got on the board with a 4-yard touchdown run by Lucas Winters to cut the Panther lead to 19-7. However, Elyria Catholic scored the final 20 points in the second half, a 39-yard fumble recovery by Tony Grasso, and ran away with a 39-7 win. Levi Ellis rushed 11 times for 108 yards and a touchdown. Jared Franz caught 8 passes for 140 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Steven Navalinsky completed 14 of 25 passing for 180 yards, 2 touchdowns and interception for the Elyria Catholic Panthers. Lakewood running back Hakeem Corin rushed 11 times for 74 yards to lead the Rangers. Elyria Catholic is 3-1 overall. They are 3-0 in conference play. They will travel to Valley Forge in week 6. Lakewood drops to 1-4 overall, 1-3 in the conference. They will host Rocky River. 1-3 in the conference, that can't be right. Is that right?
It might be.
Yeah, it is right. How about that?
Maybe they skip week 1 or something.
No, that's 1-3. I messed that up. They had 2 non-conference losses. My spreadsheet skills are deteriorating as we speak. Rocky River 1-1 overall.
Say it ain't so.
Rocky River is 1-1. They traveled to Byers Field on Thursday night to take on the Normandy Invaders. They were coming into this game 0-2. The Pirates started the game off with an interception by Sam Fuchs. I'm not gonna pronounce what the other pronunciation potentially could be for that. This is a family show. 3 plays later, sophomore running back John Beebe scored from 3 yards out for a 7-0 Rocky River lead. Quarterback Braden Spees ran for a 2-yard touchdown and then threw an 18-yard touchdown pass to Fuchs. After the half, Spees threw another touchdown pass. This one to Charlie Hudson from 24 yards out. David Rosenberg contributed a 6-yard touchdown run. A 40-0 victory for the Rocky River Pirates over the Normandy Invaders. Rocky River improves to 2-1 overall, 2-1 in the conference. They will travel to Lakewood in week 6. Normandy drops to 0-3 overall. They will play Parma in week 6. Defending co-champions of the GLC, the Parma Heights Holy Name Green Wave. They came in this contest 2-1 overall, 2-0 in the conference. They took on the Parma Redmen, coming in this contest at 0-2. Green Wave quarterback, sophomore quarterback Javon Williams. This kid is pretty good. He found tight end Colin Phillips for a 12-yard touchdown pass. After a safety that gave the Green Wave a 9-0 lead, Williams scored on touchdown runs of 9, 11, and 15 yards, leading the Green Wave to a 40-7 victory over the Redmen. Quarterback Javon Williams for Holy Name. He accounted for 4 total touchdowns. He is a human highlight reel for the GLC. Holy Name improves to 3-1 overall. They are 3-0 in the conference. They will host Bay in week 6. Parma drops to 0-3. They will take on Normandy. Bay, winless up to this point. They took on Fairview. Fairview is 1-1. Unfortunately, not a whole lot of highlights on this. I couldn't find a whole lot on this game. Bay certainly took no prisoners. They take the Warriors to the woodshed. A 50-15 victory for the Bay Rockets. Bay is 1-2 overall. They will travel to Holy Name. Fairview drops to 1-2 overall. They will host Medina Buckeye. All right, now we'll get to the one of the SOT podcast games of the week. Featured the best game in the GLC. The Valley Forge Patriots traveled to York Township to take on the Buckeye Bucks. First quarter went a little slow, but Ben Barnes runs it in from 3 yards out for a 7-0 lead. Barnes not only scored the touchdown, he kicked his own extra point thereafter. The second quarter, lots of scoring going on here, back and forth. Valley Forge running back Julius Seville scored from 4 yards out. Buckeye scores the next 2 touchdowns. Caben Marshall from 44 yards out. And then Zach Weber caught a 50-yard pass from Ben Barnes to go up 21-7. Valley Forge was not going away. AJ Augusto scored on a 22-yard pass from Zach Gansborough. And then Marquise Bolden scored on a 92-yard interception return to tie the game at 21 going into the half. Rob, what a momentum changer that was at the end of the first half.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Ed. When at this game, it was momentum Buckeye, and then all of a sudden a defensive stand by Valley Forge. What an impressive play, too. As a linebacker who went 86 yards. Augusto with the interception and went coast to coast, as we would say. But, what speed he had on the play. And Valley Forge, it was a back-and-forth game. They got down a little bit in the game. They would come right back, whether it was they had some great speed at running back. They had some playmakers on offense. And the defense, they had trouble stopping Ben Barnes. I thought a great job, I would say, by the offensive line for Buckeye, because they knew where they had their blocking schemes needed to be, and they did a great job with Valley Forge, pinning them back. And they just had long established drives with the running game. They did pass when they needed to, but overall, it was the Ben Barnes show all night. I think he had 4 or 5 touchdowns in this game.
Absolutely. So going into the third quarter, Ben Barnes scored from 8 yards out, 2 minutes into the quarter. Valley Forge came right back. Seville with his second touchdown, a 10-yard run to tie the game at 28. And then, as you said, Rob, Buckeye took over and they scored the last 2 touchdowns. Barnes again from 2 yards out and to end the third, and then Barnes again from 5 yards out to finish the scoring. The final score, 42-28. Buckeye gets the win over Valley Forge. Ben Barnes, 240 yards on the ground, 5 total touchdowns, 4 on the ground, and 1 via a 50-yard touchdown pass. He made all 6 extra points. He scored 30 points on his own, not counting the touchdown pass that he threw. To your point, Rob, they did a really good job of limiting. If you can limit Kentrell Marks, they did it. He's still getting 122 yards from scrimmage, but he wasn't able to break loose into some of the longer runs that he's been able to break out so far this year for Valley Forge. So credit the Bucks defense for really bottling up Kentrell Marks on Valley Forge's side. He's their big play threat, and he wasn't able to get untracked at all over the course of the game. And it's such a great. It was a credit to Coach Dennison and the team to be able to ward off as best as you can that offense. Valley Forge's offense is very established. It hums along pretty well, and sometimes you just got to outscore them, and that's exactly what Buckeye did.
Yeah, and like you said, Julius Seibel, the wide receiver, he's like a wide receiver running back for Valley Forge. They had him all over the place. He was taking handoffs out of the backfield on some sweeps. I thought he did a great job, utilizing his speed because he had some speed. But Marks, I'll tell you what, that guy, he's an impressive running back, and he's what kind of gave them the speed out of the backfield. He not only would come out of the backfield, he caught the ball. And I know some Division I's, they were talking about Notre Dame and Ohio State, teams like that, giving him a look. But the kid's a real deal. I mean, the offensive line for Valley Forge, they did a really nice job, but there were times that he was stuck in the backfield and it looked like he was going nowhere, and all of a sudden he's on the sideline for 10 yards. I mean, he got out of a lot of trouble, but really created for that offense. And they had about 3 different running backs they used there, so he got some breathers, which he definitely needed. But it was a fun game to watch. A good crowd there, a great atmosphere to watch football, and I think Buckeyes really happy that they can play these kind of teams. Teams that they wouldn't normally play. Now they're in the same conference, and I think it's going to be fun to watch. And Valley Forge, showed some. They didn't give up in this game. They came right back and tried to get to Buckeye, but Buckeye was able to withstand. And Ben Barnes, man, I'll tell you what, that was the player of the game for sure with Buckeye. I mean, he got it done. I asked Coach Harrington, he's the basketball coach but the athletic director, if there's anything this guy doesn't do, kicking extra points, kicking off on kickoffs. I think he plays defense. I mean, he's doing it all for Buckeye and played really well. So congratulations to Buckeye on the win there.
Absolutely, and we've talked about Buckeye has made the transition from a conference where they were one of the bigger schools to one where they're one of the smallest, not the smallest, but one of the smallest, and playing teams that are much bigger in enrollment than they are, and they've taken it to the conference, with the exception of the Holy Name game last year. And the Elyria Catholic this year, they've really taken to this conference and it's suited them very, very well. Joining the conference and becoming co-champions from the very get-go will do that for you. So looking forward to seeing where they're going to end up with their playoff seeding in their respective region. I believe they are in Division III, Region 10. I believe they are. If we were going by the Harbin scoring system, they would be number 1 in that region. But in this season, they obviously cannot. We're obviously not going to go by those rankings. So, Medina Buckeye is going to. They are going to take on Fairview next week, and then Valley Forge is going to be. This is going to be another great game. Valley Forge and Elyria Catholic is going to be a great game as well for the GLC. So Rob, thanks for going out to Buckeye and taking care of that game.
Yep.
The G&G Fitness Coach of the Week is going to go to Greg Dennison from Buckeye. He had the most impressive win. His team scored a great win over an undefeated team at the time, and they did a really, really good job outscoring a team that they needed to outscore to win. The RRT Productions Player of the Week. He's already been the Player of the Week, but I can't find a reason not to give to this guy again. Buckeye running back Ben Barnes, 240 yards rushing, 4 rushing touchdowns, a 50-yard touchdown pass, and he hit all of his extra points, which I obviously like. So congratulations, Greg Dennison. Coach Dennison from Buckeye is the GLC's nominee for the G&G Fitness Coach of the Week. Ben Barnes from Buckeye. By the way, Plain Dealer, Cleveland.com, put him on your little board that you do on Mondays. I just gave you props last week, Matt Gould, but where's Ben Barnes for Top Performer of the Week? Who needs to phone this into you? Let me know. We will make sure that happens because this guy deserves to get some publicity here. But you know what? Screw it. We got you, Ben.
We got you covered.
We got you covered here. So everyone, you want to know about Buckeye and everyone else in the GLC, Greater Cleveland Conference, Southwestern Conference, and Suburban League, we got you covered. You are the top performer in the Great Lakes Conference, Ben Barnes, and that's all you need.
Hey, Ed, I do have a solution for you.
Uh-oh.
It's called Twitter.
Nah.
Oh, no.
I don't know what.
It will not be on Twitter. That's not until.
I mean, you can tweet at him.
I don't know what that is.
Direct message Matt Gould.
Right. You can direct message the Plain Dealer or Cleveland.com.
They should directly listen to this show.
Well,
that's right, Ed. I'm with you, buddy.
Great point. Yeah, that's true.
Do you know what? But I do want to thank Olmsted Falls, Kyle. He's the assistant coach here. He sends us stats and scoring summaries. Also, Rocky River sends information. And a bunch of other schools send us stats and game summaries and stuff, and that just helps with the show. So if you're out there, sportsontapodcast@gmail.com if you want to send them there. All right, nice job, Ed.
Yeah, thank you, Rob. Now let's kick it over to my Suburban League compadre, my colleague, my cohort, my man, Sean Duffy for the Suburban League.
Oh, he loves it. Look at him, man. He loves that.
A fantasy player you all want to hate.
Yes. The bad guy in every league. Say hello to the bad guy. Yes, thank you, Ed. And we'll start off, as we always do, Week 5 in the Suburban League National Division in a tight, low-scoring matchup, which was not something that's been common in the National Division. The Brecksville Bees traveled in to take on the Stowe Bulldogs and ended up squeaking out a 15-13 victory. This was a defensive battle all game long. The only touchdowns for Stowe came by quarterback Owen Bainbridge, who had 2 passing touchdowns. Brecksville's quarterback Joe Labus had a 1 touchdown pass to Jeremy Genazzo, and last week's Player of the Week, RRT Productions Player of the Week, Garrett Cubits chipped in for 1 rushing touchdown. There was a failed opportunity for a 2-point conversion that was the difference in this game, where Stowe was not able to convert their 2-point attempt. Stowe falls to 3-1. They will host Nordonia in Week 6. Brecksville improves to 3-1. They travel to Wadsworth in Week 6. Speaking of Nordonia, they hosted the North Royalton Bears in Week 5, and they crushed the visiting North Royalton Bears by a score of 62-14. The Knights, actually, the word to use here is demolished. And they were led, obviously, by their quarterback, former RRT Productions Player of the Week, Billy Levac, going 9 for 2, 173 yards and 4 passing touchdowns. Nordonia running back Sal Perrine had 131 rushes on 11 carries and 1 touchdown. Also from Nordonia, running back Shane Robinson had 2 carries for 118 yards and 2 touchdowns. They ran all up and down the field on the Bears. North Royalton would get their only scoring from 2 touchdown passes from Michael Piazza on the night, but it just wasn't enough to stop Nordonia's offense. North Royalton falls to 0-5. They travel to take on Hudson, and it does not get any easier for the North Royalton Bears in Week 6. Nordonia improves to 3-2. They host Stowe in Week 6. So that's an interesting matchup in the National Division. In the American Division, the Aurora Green Men travel to take on the Black Tigers of Cuyahoga Falls, and it was all Green Men all night. Aurora quarterback Alex Moore went 11 of 15 for 247 yards and 4 touchdowns. Aurora running back Jack Cardman had a rushing touchdown and was on the receiving end of one of those Alex Moore touchdowns. The lone touchdown came for the Black Tigers came by running back Kobe Brown on a 5-yard TD scamper early in the game. After that, this was actually a close game, but Aurora just kicked off the second half and scored 24 unanswered points in the second half and really coasted to a win there. Cuyahoga Falls is 0-4. They will travel to take on Copley in Week 6. Aurora is 4-1. They host Twinsburg in Week 6. Our second and our only other American matchup actually came on a rare Saturday as the Kent Roosevelt Rough Riders traveled to take on the Copley Indians, and this was a really close game throughout. In fact, Copley was down late in the second half and as in the fourth quarter, and utilized a field goal they were tied, and they had a field goal to break the tie late in the second half. But because this game was played Saturday afternoon, not a lot of coverage on this particular game. This was Ken Roosevelt's first real game. They had 2 bye weeks, and then they've had a couple weeks off because of some COVID-19 concerns. So despite the extended layoff, it was a pretty impressive outing for Kent Roosevelt. They are unfortunately 0-1. They host Talmadge in Week 6. Copley, as I mentioned, will host Cuyahoga Falls in Week 6. Starting off in our non-divisional matchup, we have Barberton getting its first win of the season, a 37-30 victory over the Wadsworth Grizzlies. Guys, the Wadsworth is 1-3 right now, and they've had some really heartbreaking losses, this one included. Magic quarterback Shandon Lee was the star of the game here, 13-17 passing, 273 yards and 3 touchdowns. Magic running back Cam Macon had 30 carries, 124 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Wide receivers for the Magics, Cage Lowe had 5 receptions for 124 yards and Derek Vaughn had 3 receptions for 102 yards and 2 touchdowns. Charlie Hornacek had 6 receptions, 91 yards, and a touchdown. For the Grizzlies, Notre Dame commit at tight end and quarterback Mitchell Evans did have a pretty productive game. Unfortunately, was not able to secure the win, but a pretty impressive stat line nonetheless. 17-38, 268 yards, 3 passing touchdowns to combine with 7 carries, 30 yards, and a rushing touchdown. Wadsworth wide receiver Anthony Camino had 6 receptions for 130 yards and 2 of those touchdowns from Evans. Unfortunately, it just wasn't enough as Barberton travels on the road to Wadsworth, mind you, to get its first win of the season. They improved to 1-4. They are at Highland in Week 6, whereas Wadsworth is 1-3. They will travel to Brecksville to take on the Bees in Week 6. Rob already hit on this one. Revere traveled in to take on Westlake, and it was all Revere all night. The Minutemen were able to just dominate this game from the beginning. Shane Slattery had 2 of the 3 touchdowns on the night for the Minutemen, and he was the leading rusher and leading point getter essentially for that game as Revere runs away with it 21-0 against Westlake. Westlake is 2-3. They host Warrensville Heights in Week 6. Revere at Rob is actually 3-1. They had a Week 1 bye.
Okay, so they are 3.
Travel to take on Maple Heights in Week 6. The Revere Maple Heights game is the lone non-suburban league matchup next week. So that'll be an interesting game to follow. Next on the docket, we have another team, 2 teams actually looking for their first wins of the year. Talmadge travels in to take on Twinsburg. Another close game here as Talmadge is able to eke out its first win of the season, 24-20 over the Twinsburg Tigers. Talmadge sophomore quarterback Ty Hurst finished the game 16 of 31 for 267 yards and a touchdown. Running back Cole Thomas had 117 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. Twinsburg's quarterback Trevor Horvath had 2 passing touchdowns, and running back for the Tigers Alex Branch did have a rushing touchdown and a touchdown reception. Unfortunately, the Blue Devils were able to get their first win of the season, and they improved to 1-3. They will travel to face Roosevelt in Week 6. Twinsburg 0-3. They have a date at Aurora. Now we move on to our last but not least. Josh has been waiting patiently to go over this because I know what he's going to talk about, and that's the Hudson Explorers traveling in to take on the Highland Hornets. And before this game before they got to halftime, we already had 5 touchdowns scored in this game. Problem was they were all on the visiting side of the ledger here. This was more of the same for Hudson. I mean, I'm just going to give you some stat lines, and Josh, I'll let you kind of give an idea of what the atmosphere in the game was like. Hudson running back Aiden Lau, 9 carries, 105 yards, 2 touchdowns. Hudson running back Drew Leitner, 147 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. Hudson quarterback Jacob Baldani, 8 for 11, 103 yards. And I think he had 1 touchdown pass, 1 or 2 touchdown passes.
He had 2 total touchdowns. He also added 40 yards rushing.
That's correct. Yes, 1 touchdown passing, 1 touchdown rushing. So I mean, by halftime, they were up a pretty healthy margin. Not to say the Hornets just laid down and died. They looked much better in the second half. Aaron Phillips did come out, finished with 137 yards passing and a touchdown. Also added 16 carries for 81 yards and a touchdown. Luke Stiles, who was the only touchdown scored for the Hornets in the first half, and ended up with 53 yards rushing on the night. But I mean, you're facing Hudson, and it's a display of offensive firepower at this point.
Yeah, the one thing that really amazed me about Hudson was the ability for that offense. Yeah, I said it, one thing. The ability of that offense, they perfected the no huddle. The whole game, they ran that no huddle. And, I didn't think about it until after the fact, but, with the new rules of less contact of the football, the referees, the game officials do not touch the football. So essentially that center has that ball. So as soon as that center has that ball, he could put it down and they're ready to go. Multiple occasions, the head referee had to tell Hudson, wait. They had to wait for the lines crew, the line of scrimmage to be set. They were ready to go. So props to Hudson and their offensive line, their offensive team, and the coaches for being so well prepared. It was a fine, a well-oiled machine. One I have not seen that much on the high school level. So they did a really good job. And the first play of the game for Highland was a fumbled snap, a fumbled handoff, and Hudson was able to recover, and that got the first score from them. Now, to Highland's credit, on their next drive, they drove the length of the field. They started at the 20, so they drove 80 yards, a long drive in the first quarter for their first touchdown of that second half. But that was all they were able to muster. As Sean mentioned, 5 touchdowns in that first half alone to make it 35-7 at half. Highland did come out, settled down a little bit, but the key for Highland was they weren't able to stop the Hudson offense. One play in the third quarter, Highland was able to drive down, score a touchdown. I believe it was the 13-yard pass from Phillips to Max Coleman. They were able to score that touchdown. You're like, okay, well, it's 35-21. If Highland can get some stops, then maybe they can really get back into this game late in the game. It took less than 2 minutes of game time to Hudson to go down and score their final touchdown of the game. So they were really rolling on offense, and just a credit to them for, again, how they were able to really execute that no-huddle offense. And that's going to be a huge weapon for them going into this playoffs. They're undefeated on the season. They've been just rolling through the season this year. They are going to definitely be a tough team to play, a tough team to match up against for any team that they're playing against. So really impressed with Hudson. Highland, they just didn't have enough firepower on the defensive end. Now, also, we're talking about Hudson's offense, but give credit to their defense in this one for actually not allowing, Highland, with the exception of a couple sustained drives, not allowing them to get any really thing going on the offensive end and allowing their offense to get back on the field and score quickly. So props to them. All around great game by Hudson. Looking forward to seeing how they will go on here in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Hudson. I mean, they're 5-0, and really, they're the top right now in the National Division. I would say in the Suburban League overall. Really impressed with the way they're doing it. And like you said, Josh, you got to give their hats off to their defense because, it's easy. If you have a great offense, the hardest thing to do is stop others from getting momentum as well, and that's what they did. As I mentioned, Hudson is 5-0. They will be at North Royalton next week, and Highland is now 2-2 in the season. They will host Barberton. I'm sorry, Hudson will host North Royalton. Highland will host Barberton. My G&G Coach of the Week. You know what? I looked at. I did a very soul-searching thing here, and I said, you know what? I'm going to give it to the coach that got its first win of the season, got its first win in 12 games, 12 weeks of football without a win. Giving it to Mike Hay of Talmadge, G&G Fitness Coach of the Week nominee. Great win over a Twinsburg team. Close game, hard-hitting game. My player of the week, I'm going to give it to Aurora quarterback Alex Moore. He did a great job. He's been doing a great job all year, and he honestly has put up numbers consistently for the last 4 to 5 weeks. And I'll tell you right now, if not for the national division, this kid would probably be on my player of the week every week. He's been nothing but consistent from the Greenman. Aurora has been playing on the road, last-minute games. They've had everything thrown at them, with the exception of the one loss. They've come out of it, and they're now sitting very pretty for the American Conference now, American Division. Now, again, Copley's there too. They're 4-0, but I'm going to give it to quarterback from Aurora, Alex Moore. Very impressive performance this week. And then we'll move on to Week 6 in the Suburban League. And the National Division shapes up this way. Nordonia, 3-2, will travel to take on Stowe, who is 3-1. North Royalton, 0-5, travels to Hudson to take on the undefeated 5-0 Hudson Explorers. The Bees of Brecksville will travel to take on the Wadsworth Grizzlies, who are 1-3. In the American Division, Cuyahoga Falls, 0-4, travels to take on Copley, who is 4-0. The Kent Roosevelt Rough Riders, who are 0-1, will travel to take on the Talmadge Blue Devils at 1-3. Barberton Magics, 1-4, will travel to face Highland, who is 2-2. My 2 non-conference or non-divisional games this week has Aurora, 4-1, traveling to take on 0-3 Twinsburg, and Revere, 3-1, traveling way out of conference, playing Maple Heights, who is 3-2. Guys, that is all the news that is fit to print for the Suburban League. It was a great week of action, and, we'll see you next week.
Nice work, Sean. And we want to give full credit to Josh Jeffy for that video we played while you guys were breaking it down. A lot of great highlights there. 9 minutes of highlights. Go to our YouTube page or sportsontappodcast.com, and you can see video highlights and all kinds of good stuff on our website. So, nice job, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir.
It's a lot going on.
Yeah, we should talk about it. We've kind of switched it up just a little bit for our polls that we have on our Twitter page. Again, both polls will be up after the show here, so you can go onto our Twitter page at SOT Podcast and vote for those. Once again, the nominees for our G&G Fitness Coaches of the Week are Mark Pinzoni from Brunswick, Luke Beal from Midview, Mike Hay from Talmadge, and Greg Dennison from Buckeye. And then our RRT Productions Player of the Week nominees are Armin Scott from Euclid, Nico Pappas from Avon, Alex Moore for Aurora, and Ben Barnes from Buckeye. We'll have those up here as soon as we are done with the show. Make sure you go and vote and retweet. Tell your friends, tell your family. Go in and vote twice.
Tell your neighbors.
Create an account for Ed Dick and vote for him.
Call it Twitterless Ed.
I'll tell you what, if somebody comes up with Twitterless Ed, it's got to be
You think I'm not creating a Twitterless Ed profile on Twitter and just really saying how big of a Strongsville fan I am as Twitterless Ed? It's going to be, you're out of your mind. It's going to be Go Mustangs, Twitterless Ed.
Oh, boy. Wow, he might actually make a...
I know, I'm forcing him to get on.
I'm really thinking about
This is how we're going to do it. This is how we're going to do it.
Besmirching the Ed Dick name is what I'm going to do.
Man, that's cold.
Oh man,
that's cold. Well, we should be, starting. We should find out later this week about the playoff matchup. So, we'll, in addition to our Week 6 recaps for our respective conferences, we'll be able to talk playoffs next week. And that's always been, generally we talk about it weeks in advance of the playoffs because we have a pretty good idea where things are at, thanks to JoeIdle.com. But we don't right now. We're going to go into a similar situation to what all the other sports do. All the other team sports do. They'll seed their teams in the regions, and we'll see how it shakes out. So hopefully we'll find that out later this week, and we'll be able to talk playoff football next week. We'll find out the brackets when everyone else does, apparently. So which will be a lot of fun to talk about next week.
Interesting note, none of our teams in our conferences have opted out, so they're all playing playoff football right now. So we're gonna have a busy couple weeks, I think, here, just like we always do here at Sports on Tap.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I believe the coaches will vote on seating on Saturday the 3rd. So this coming Saturday, I think they're going to start. They're going to vote on seating. So yeah, I think by Sunday. Brackets will be out, maybe even Saturday night. Definitely by Monday in time for our show. I think we're going to have a focus more on the playoffs because that's actually what we're getting into since like Sean said, all of our teams opted in. So now the biggest and best thing to talk about is the playoffs and the matchups, and we're going to be some interesting matchups. So it's going to be fun.
Yeah, especially since every team's going to be has the opportunity to be in, not just the top 8 like most seasons, so it's a little bit different that way, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And we've seen a lot of great high school football. It's been fun going back out, and it's good to see everyone. And we've gotten help this year. It's been a little bit different, but we're kind of going with the flow and having some fun while we're doing it. So looking forward to next week, that's for sure. We'll see where everybody's playing and where everybody's going. Any last thoughts, guys, before we close down the show here tonight?
I will just say we'll let everyone know via Twitter where we will be Friday night. Still up in the air, kind of seeing what games are down for us to cover. But we'll let you guys know probably closer to the week, Wednesday, Thursday, who will be out, where we'll be. And as always, follow us on Twitter, Sports on Tap Podcast, SOT Podcast. At sportsontappodcast.com, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. I think Rob has a Tinder profile called Sports on Tap. I'm not sure if that's accurate or not.
No, that's completely false.
That's completely false. That's very false. It was a joke. It was designed to make people
laugh. I know. Now everybody's going out there like, wait, I don't see him on there.
Wouldn't it be weird if there was one like Sports on Tap? That'd be fantastic.
You know what's weird? Since you said that, our viewers have gone way up. That's kind of crazy.
What is it? What's the bad? Is it swiping right? That's not good, right?
I don't know.
I'm not sure how does that work.
Ed, educate us. You know what.
I don't know. That's what I'm asking. I don't know. I'm not sure.
You know.
Is right good and left bad? I'm not sure.
I don't know. I have no idea.
No idea.
At SOT Podcast, is right bad and is left good.
Put a poll up. Put a poll up, Josh. Is swipe right good or bad? Yeah, swipe right, yes or no.
Oh dear.
Podcast or whatever is a good one.
Oh no.
Yeah.
The wheels have come unhinged.
How does that work? I'm not sure.
We'll put that on the Twitterless Ed Twitter handle.
As long as the Twitterless Ed handle has nothing to do with this podcast outside of the name in and of itself, we can do whatever we want on that page.
Okay, according to TextGod.com, on dating apps, a swipe left means you are not interested in the person.
Oh, okay.
Swipe right means you are interested. However, these swipes left or right have a way bigger impact on your dating success than you know. I'm going to just leave it at that and go on to your future adventures if you want to learn about that yourselves.
That's great.
All right, well, that answered that question. No, we do not need any more. We do not need assistance via the Twitter on that.
Nope.
Please continue vote. Please continue voting for your G&G player, Coach of the Week, and RRT Productions Player of the Week on our Twitter.
Absolutely. At SOT Podcast, not Twitterless Ed. Let's put it that way. All right, guys. Great job tonight. It was fun. The wheels are slowly falling off this bus.
The wheels in my head are spinning because I have this whole thing now where I'm just going to, as Twitterless Ed, just go to town on why kickers are useless and don't serve any purpose.
Oh, man.
Oh boy, we might want to cut it off here.
All
Let
right.
those
Again, it's a joke designed to be funny.
Okay.
All right, guys. Great job, and we'll see you next Monday for
Sean,
our
let's
week
be real,
6.
though. If you had a kicker, you might win this.
I had a kicker, and I lost that because I wouldn't say because of my kicker. My kicker actually was fine last year, but I had some people on the bench that could have helped me more.
Yeah.
Hey guys, have a good week.
Hold on a sec. Who's to say who's to say that whoever was in the kicker spot for your opponent could have made the same moves and still made you lose?
I just said it didn't. I didn't say it didn't. The kicker wasn't the direct responsible
Wheels
party.
on the
Oh,
bus.
no. Here's what you
I
said.
had to make
Sorry.
a decision.
What you said was that you had players on your bench that could have helped you win. There are all probably players on the other team's bench that also could have helped them win. So what's
True. Well, I mean, I'm just
what's
saying.
the argument here?
The argument is I get a bigger point total from a wide receiver than
Gentlemen,
No, it means
as
you're
Bob
gonna lose.
Ross says,
happy trees.
mistakes, just happy accidents.
Mm-hmm.
Just like this. No happy accident, though.
No, that's a terrible
I'll
accident.
see ya.
That's the equivalent of a
All right.
nuclear accident,
All right,
right?
guys. Well, we know that was a happy accident with him winning the belt, but enough said there. All right, guys. Great job.
We'll see.
All right.
How about
All right.
We'll see
Stop
on
it.
the other side.
Listen.
I like that, Ed. We'll see you on the other side, folks. And hopefully you don't see. I like that mug. That's
That
pretty
mug.
sweet.
I want to get one of them mugs.
Hopefully Josh got us all some.
Yeah, I would hope so. Otherwise, we're the worst morning show on TV.
At 8 o'clock at night.
All right, guys, check our Twitter page at SOT Podcast to see where we'll be at Friday night. And we'll be on Facebook Live again next Monday night at 8 p.m. Go to sportsontapodcast.com to see stories, videos, pictures, and a bunch more. We're on Facebook and YouTube. We're all over the place, on Instagram as well. So, guys, great job, and we'll see you for the Week 6 game recaps on Monday night at 8 o'clock. We say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See you later.